What's up, YouTube? SwooCube here, and today I've got an update video for the Pokemon Pocket IRL Cube Space-Time Smackdown Edition. Actually I have two cubes. We're going to talk about the big one today. The big cube is now 135 cards, designed for 2-player, 4-player, or 6-player play, and it is drafted via a grid draft. So I'm actually going to quickly demonstrate what this means, talk about the rules of the cube for those that are new. This will take less than a minute. So a cube is a curated set of cards that players will draft semi-randomized decks from, build them together creatively, and play games with. This cube is my third or fourth kind of refinement of this system for Pokemon Pocket, and I'm getting to be very, very happy with it. So the draft process works in a 3x3 grid where you kind of just take turns as players. Well, that's a good one. Laying out 9 cards, and then player 1 will take a row or a column that will go into their pool of cards. Then player 2 will take a row or a column that will go into their pool of cards, right? And the remaining 3 cards or 2 cards that are left, or 4 cards, are discarded. That is the process with drafting. The 135 card cube is designed to support 15 rounds of that. And then each player ends up with about 40-ish cards, give or take, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, from which they build 2 Pokemon Pocket decks using mutant evolution rules, which I will talk about in a second here. So, but first I'm just going to start laying out the cards as I talk about my design for this cube and what the update has brought. Now, previously, this cube, I'm just going to lay these out in kind of evolution tree order. Previously, this cube was 162 cards, designed to support 18 rounds of grid draft. And from that, we built 3 decks. I felt that was just like a little bit too much. A little bit too chunky for the light, snappy gameplay that Pokemon Pocket is supposed to produce. And so I pared things back. So instead of 12 Pokemon per color, there are 10 Pokemon per color. Now this cube adds metal types. So now literally every type of Pokemon that exists in Pokemon Pocket exists in this cube, which is great. Very happy to be able to do that. A couple notable changes now that we have a big enough card pool, where I've found that I'm really able to start making some really focused design decisions. In particular, what's a particular color doing? How much, consistency type effects do I want to have in a color? What's the energy curve look like? Do I want to have, big stompy guys or little quick guys, or, etc. One of the things I've been spending some time thinking about is how much randomness to include in any given color. Because I find that the coin flip element of Pokemon Pocket is really kind of the secret sauce of the game. The decks are small, they're very consistent. So much of the game takes place face up. So it's really kind of easy to think a couple turns ahead. And so you need these elements of, really just blatant randomness to kind of mix things up and keep things fresh. And I think this game does a really good job at that. So the initial iterations of the cube that I built had very little randomness. And I found that was lacking. So things like Celebi, things like Wormadam, I think are pretty important to keep things just fresh and interesting from game to game. I'm going to move a little bit more quickly through the other colors, so this is not a forever long video. Fire got some nice inclusions in a basic Pokemon that ramps, which is great. And the burn mechanic, which is also great. Only one stage 3 or stage 2 in fire. So fire's kind of trying to do the rampy thing. Charizard and Magmortar are payoffs for that. Moltres is a nice enabler, as is Magmar. Also can kind of do the speedy thing with Rapidash, Ninetales. Macargo's kind of somewhere in the middle. There's a little bit of poison synergy here, so really very flexible color. But I think the most fun thing to do is assemble this. For water, we have Greninja and Blastoise at the top, Tentacruel, Vaporeon, and Frostmoth at the bottom, Lapras, Psyduck, Pikachu, Manaphy, and Articuno, EX. Each color, if available, gets 2 EXs in this cube. Could see that going up to 3 at some point, but as of now, don't feel the need to do that. Notably, I'm not playing Palkia EX or like Infernape in Fire. I find that those are just a little bit too efficient at what they do, and this gameplay experience is meant to have a little bit of breathing room and allow. I don't just want every game to be kind of aggro efficiency. So I actually removed certain cards that were in previous iterations of my cube because I felt like they were a little bit too efficient for what they do. Lapras is a new addition that's really designed to be a benefit for Manaphy. Vaporeon also benefits from that. I try with colors that have a couple stage 2s. I try not to make the stage 1s too overpowered. These are obviously strong Pokemon, but I'm not putting in like stat monsters in here because I want to have that little bit of that, basic valley through stage 1 into stage 2 that exists in most evolution trees in actual traditional Pocket. I failed to mention at the beginning of the video, so I will do so here. This cube uses mutant evolution, which means that any basic can evolve into any stage 1, can evolve into any stage 2. However, I have made a couple adjustments to that formula in this most recent refinement, and that is, I'll talk about that in a minute. Let me just get through Electric. So Electric has no stage 2s, but has some strong stage 1s that can really kind of carry their weight. Jolteon certainly does its thing. And yeah, this is a pretty decent mix. I do include Electabuzz and Raichu because Lieutenant Surge is still a supporter available in this cube. I do not include Volkner directly to support Electivire, but Electivire can still kind of benefit from Electabuzz getting surprise energies and then surprise evolve, and then out of nowhere you're hitting for 120 with exciting voltage. So mutant evolution. So mutant evolution in this cube, because Pokemon is a game built around consistency and needing to have very specific combos to evolve your Pokemon, that doesn't really work in a limited environment. So you have to alter the rules a little bit to allow any stage 1 to evolve, or any basic to evolve into any stage 1 to evolve into any stage 2. Kind of breaking my own rule here with fighting. Grapploct is a little bit more of a stat monster for stage 1, where there's a stage 2 available, but fighting, that's kind of what fighting does, right? Hits hard and hits fast. Lucario, Glisser, getting some nice coin flips in there. All really good additions. Golem and Onyx play with Brock. And then you kind of get like the fighting box cards as basics. Kind of watching fighting a little bit to make sure fighting's not too strong. But yeah, so it's fighting. So in this fighting deck, right, Cubone could evolve into Lucario or Glisser or Grapploct or Marowak, right? Hitmonchan could evolve into all these things. But one of my refinements to the evolution system, this kind of go anywhere mutant evolution rule set, is that this would not be an allowable evolution because Onyx has 110 HP and Lucario has 100. So I've made it a rule in this cube that you can only evolve to the next stage if that stage has more HP. Can't be the same, can't be less. And that goes just common sense along with the game, right? Pokemon always get more HP when they evolve. In the card game, in the VGC, in all the games. And so I feel like that's a pretty intuitive thing, and it enabled me to include some Pokemon that I otherwise couldn't have in design because there's just a little bit of restriction in it, and that's very helpful. Now, you can also evolve across colors, right? So, Cubone could evolve into Lucario or Jolteon, and we could kind of throw, Hitmonlee in there as well. Now, this would be a legal evolution tree. You could throw Golem at the top. You could throw Blastoise at the top. You could really throw anything at the top. The restriction is obviously you need to have, sorry, I'm off screen here. You need to have, you need to be able to pull the right energies in order to support that. And that kind of makes you want to stay on color or include cards with flexible attacks costs, right? Like Lucario probably wouldn't do so hot in the middle there because you need 2 fighting, but Glycer could work just fine. And, you know, the idea here is you can build, you know, you can have things evolve in any way you want, but you need to predefine what they are before the game, right? So generally what we do when we're building our decks is we lay out our evolutions, right? Like this could, I'll just build a quick deck right here, right? This would be a totally acceptable Pokemon Pocket Cube limited deck. Actually, it'd be a very good one. Because there's so much consistency. Generally speaking, they're 2 colors, and there's a little more mix and match between the colors because the grid draft is not super, you know, you have to make some tough choices in the grid draft. One more thing for evolution, and then I promise I'll move on. You cannot have just like a random EX have an evolution above it. EXs always have to be the top of the line. So if you include an EX in an evolution tree, none of these Pokemon ever get to evolve into a Golem, right? If you have like a 60 HP basic and an Onyx in the same evolution tree, they could like only evolve into something with more HP, like Marowak, right? Not Jolteon, which has less HP, or Glycer. So, okay, I think that's enough on the evolution thing. Just in terms of how to keep track of it, because you really you have to like lay it out before the game starts. We typically just take a picture so it's on our smartphones and we can refer to it. After like a couple turns of your first game, a couple looks at it, it'll just be intuitive. These decks are really small, so kind of keeping track of the way Pokemon need to evolve is fairly easy. But it adds a really sweet dynamic to the games because, and to just deck building, because there's so many cool synergies you can pull off that just aren't possible because normal Pocket it doesn't allow for this flexible evolution, obviously. And it shouldn't, because that's not what the game is. Okay, we got 2 EXs here. So Psychic has some kind of utility. Like Psychic's a little weird. A lot of the power budget is kind of focused in these 2 basic EXs. Got some cool, neat effects here, other basics. Slowbro is a total stat monster. BKM's pretty efficient, but the stage 2s really are utility stage 2s. You know, you're not going to be winning a whole lot of combat with Dusknoir or Gardevoir, but in support roles, they can completely change the way your game plays and do really interesting things, which I enjoy. So this color is kind of built with that in mind. Totally love Azelf as an addition, as a basic, very cool. And I think Dusknoir is going to be pretty cool. Maybe not fun to play against, we'll see, haven't tested it yet, but it seems good on paper. No pun intended, paper. Okay, Dark. So Dark got a huge facelift from the last time, the last iteration, which was, you know, very poison focused. That goes down here. This version of Dark has no stage 2s, but you know, big basic and some really powerful stage 1s. Weevil X is probably the most aggressive card in the whole cube. Darkrai EX, we all know him from the game, a total monster. Probably be down powered a little bit in this version because of how you need to run 2 color decks most of the time. But that is Dark. Very much happy with this kind of layout and setup. All right, Steel up next. Metal. The color that did not exist in my previous iterations because we did not have enough good cards is now here, and here in force. Maybe too good, we'll see. But I mean, total stat monsters across the board. That's just kind of the way they're built. They do tend to have high energy requirements, which is kind of a balancing factor. But that is my metal tree. I think Probopass is going to be a lot of fun. Bronzong kind of does a nice little mini Melmetal impersonation. Obviously much worse. And Bastiodon, yeah, so we'll see. I'm a little bit concerned that this mix of Pokemon, excuse me for the buzzer, that's my laundry, I'm in the basement here. I'm a little concerned that this mix of Pokemon might be a little bit a hair above the power of the rest, but it's the new kid on the block. We can have its day in the sun before I tone it down as we get more cards in future sets. For Colorless, because Colorless energy can be used, because of the way the evolution system works and the fact that Colorless energy can be used anywhere, I've kind of intentionally down-powered. There's some pretty good utility basics, some good utility stage ones. These are your wild cards as you're drafting, right? You can kind of go and fit in any evolution tree, fill space. So I try and keep the power down a little bit below what the colored, you're not gonna see anything on the level of like a Ninetales or a Rapidash or a Jolteon in here. But still do good work. These are kind of the evolving, the kind of evolution. No more stage 2s in Colorless. I took out Pidgeot. It was a little bit too flexible and good. So I narrowed the focus of what Colorless Pokemon do in this cube to just make them wild card role fillers. They do lots of different things. You get a nice 0 retreat cost with a Dodrio, some energy disruption, bench damage. Cinccino can actually have a high damage output in the right deck. So there's those, and then also I have the big basics. Mami Kangaskhan, Tauros to hate on EXs, and Regigigas, which I'm not sure if it's going to be good, terrible, or broken, but I think it will fit. I want to have a ramp target, an acceleration target that can kind of flexibly play with things like Dialga EX and Manaphy now in the cube, so it'll be cool. I mean, it doesn't really evolve into much, if anything. Actually, I think probably evolves into nothing. Maybe one EX, stage 1, but I don't think so. So yeah, because of the high HP, it's really just only ever going to be a big basic, but it should be fun. And I love the Reggies. Lastly, we have Dragon Pokemon. Only 3. The Line Toppers and Druggadon. Just basically the mechanically unique ones that aren't just kind of more efficient vanillas like Gabite and Dragonair are. These honestly, these may be too good. We'll see. For single knockout point Pokemon, they are great as stage 2s. The dual colored energy does make them restrictive, across the board. It's a little easier to pull that off in this cube. So we'll see. Dragonite's not a particularly competitive card. I really enjoy the gameplay of it, so it's probably here to stay. We'll see if Garchomp does too much work, but Druggadon is probably pretty safe as well. But yeah, these 3 cards, that rounds out the list of the Pokemon. For trainers, we probably saw the biggest improvement in this area from the addition of Space-Time Smackdown, because we got so many good supporters. Cyrus, Dawn, opening up completely new gameplay avenues. So now I no longer have, like 6 Sabrinas and 6 Giovannis. I have 2 tiers of supporters and trainers. Good ones and not so good ones. The good ones, communication is a good one. Get 2 copies. These are the items kind of down below here. The not so good ones get 1 copy. So kind of all the general supporters I deem good enough to, I'm running out of space. There's 2 Giovannis and 2 Sabrinas to get 2 ofs. Obviously not all of these are the same. You probably aren't as happy to see Mars as you are to see Cyrus, but I like that there's a little bit of scarcity with those effects. In a 2-player setting, which is what this cube is really designed primarily for, because that's my play group, there's 4 decks built. So you could have, if you get lucky enough to pull, both Cyruses and both Sabrinas, each of your 2 decks could have 1 of each, right? Or maybe each deck of all 4 only has 1, or maybe a couple didn't get drafted and there's not a whole lot of that type of play going on in that cube session. And people are having to rely on, weaker things like Blue or Mars, or Lumberry. But that is, that's how I designed it. We'll see how it plays. I'm very excited for the variety, and beyond excited to see where we go from here. I mean, the trainers are just getting so good and so interesting. I do maintain, oh wait, that's not that. I do maintain, these are one-off items, the gym leader trainers or the gym leader supporters. These are the items that are just kind of, they're fine. These might get cut entirely at some point, but I do like variety. So as a one-off, they're okay. If you get unlucky in your draft, you might be forced to play them. But Surge, Koga, Blaine, Brock, Budding Expeditioner from you, Misty, and Erica all still have space. Misty and Erica are obviously the best ones because they're not Pokemon specific, but all the ones that are Pokemon specific still at least have 2 Pokemon targets that they can point to, except for Mew-EX, but that's fine. And that is the entirety of my cube. Holy cow, this video is 20 minutes. Thank you very much for staying with me. I will hopefully at some point post the list in the comments. Otherwise, yeah, thank you very much for sticking with this video. This will be my last video for a good little bit here. My wife is pregnant with twins. She's due this week. So I'm just kind of rushing to get this out because I'm really excited about this project, and I think it's gonna be fun for a lot of people, and it's probably not gonna be till after the next set before I get to play test this or put up a video because I'm gonna be busy taking care of twin babies. But yeah, thank you all so much for following along. Appreciate your engagement, encouragement. Play Pokemon Pocket Cube in real life. It's a ton of fun. And I will catch you later. Peace out.